Look around you right now. Can you see glass? Maybe you're looking through a window. Maybe you're wearing glasses. Maybe there's a glass of water on your table, or you're staring at a smartphone screen. Glass is everywhere in our modern world. But here's something amazing. This material that seems so ordinary, so simple, is actually one of humanity's most extraordinary inventions. It's been called frozen liquid, solid air, and captured light. But how did humans discover it? How did we learn to shape it, color it, and make it clear? The story of glass is a story of accident, alchemy, and incredible human creativity. Let's explore it together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into the fascinating history of glass, a material so common we barely notice it, yet so important that our modern world couldn't exist without it. Glass is a unique substance. It looks solid, but scientists sometimes call it a supercooled liquid. That means it flows extremely slowly, like a liquid, but appears solid to us. Glass is made primarily from sand, specifically a type of sand that contains silica. Silica is a natural mineral found in sand, rocks, and soil. When you heat silica to extremely high temperatures, something magical happens. It melts and transforms. When it cools down, it becomes glass. But glass isn't just windows and bottles. Throughout history, glass has been jewelry, art, scientific tools, and even weapons. It has changed how we see the world, literally. Telescopes let us explore the universe. Microscopes let us see tiny cells and bacteria. Eyeglasses help millions of people see clearly. The story of glass spans thousands of years. It begins in ancient times, in the deserts of the Middle East. It travels through Roman workshops, medieval cathedrals, Venetian islands, and industrial factories. And it continues today with smartphone screens and fiber optic cables. So let's travel back in time. Let's discover how humans first made glass, how the technology spread and evolved, and how this remarkable material shaped our civilization. Are you ready? Let's begin. Our story starts about 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Mesopotamia was a region in the Middle East, in what is now Iraq and Syria. These were some of the world's first great civilizations. Nobody knows exactly how humans first discovered glass. But there's a wonderful legend told by the ancient Roman writer Pliny the Elder. According to this story, Phoenician merchants were traveling by ship along the coast. The Phoenicians were skilled traders and sailors from the Mediterranean region. One night, they stopped on a beach to cook food. They needed stones to support their cooking pots over the fire, but they couldn't find any suitable rocks, so they used blocks of natron from their cargo instead. Natron is a natural mineral salt that was used in ancient times for cleaning and preserving things. When the fire burned hot, something unexpected happened. The natron mixed with the sand on the beach. The intense heat melted them together. When the merchants woke up the next morning, they found a strange, shiny, translucent substance. Translucent means you can see light through it, but not clearly like transparent glass. They had accidentally created glass. Is this story true? Probably not. It's a legend, but it captures an important truth. Glass was likely discovered by accident, when the right materials met the right conditions. What we know for certain is this. By around 3500 BC, people in Mesopotamia and Egypt were making glass objects. These weren't windows or drinking glasses. They were small decorative items, beads, amulets, and colorful glazes. An amulet is a small object worn for protection or good luck. A glaze is a shiny, glass-like coating applied to pottery. The earliest glass was opaque, meaning you couldn't see through it. It came in beautiful colors, deep blues, bright greens, rich reds. Ancient glassmakers created these colors by adding different minerals to the molten glass. Molten means melted and liquid because of extreme heat. For example, copper made glass blue or green. Cobalt made it deep blue. Gold made it red. These colorful glass objects were precious. They imitated gemstones like lapis lazuli and turquoise. Only wealthy and powerful people could afford them. Kings and queens wore glass jewelry. Temples displayed glass decorations. For many centuries, making glass was slow and difficult. Glassmakers had to heat furnaces to temperatures above 1000 degrees Celsius. A furnace is a large oven for heating materials to very high temperatures. They shaped glass by hand, wrapping hot glass around clay cores or pressing it into molds. The objects were small because the technique was limited. Then, around 50 BC, something revolutionary happened. Someone, we don't know exactly who, invented glass blowing. Revolutionary means completely changing the way things are done. Glass blowing changed everything. This technique was probably invented somewhere in the Roman Empire, possibly in Syria or the Levant. The Levant is the eastern Mediterranean region. Here's how glass blowing works. A glassmaker takes a long metal tube called a blowpipe. He dips one end into molten glass, and a blob of hot glass sticks to it, like honey on a spoon. Then he blows air through the pipe. The glass expands like a balloon. By blowing, turning, and shaping the glass while it's still hot and soft, the glassmaker can create hollow objects, bottles, cups, bowls, vases. This technique was faster, easier, and more versatile than the old methods. Versatile means able to do many different things. Suddenly, glassmakers could produce objects of all sizes and shapes. Glass became cheaper. It became available to ordinary people, not just the wealthy. The Romans fell in love with glass. By the 1st century AD, glass workshops operated all across the Roman Empire, from Syria to Italy to Britain. Roman glassmakers became incredibly skilled. They made delicate drinking cups, storage jars, perfume bottles, and even window panes. Yes, windows. The Romans were among the first to use glass in architecture. Architecture means the design and construction of buildings. They created small, thick panes of glass for windows in wealthy homes and public bathhouses. These early windows weren't perfectly clear. They were cloudy and greenish, but they let in light while keeping out wind and rain. Romans also invented new decorative techniques. They made cameo glass, layers of different colored glass carved to create beautiful designs. They made millefiori glass, patterns that look like tiny flowers, made by bundling colored glass rods together and slicing them. Millefiori means thousand flowers in Italian. Glass became so important that glassmakers were respected craftsmen. Some even signed their work, proud of their skill. But then, in the 5th century AD, the Roman Empire began to collapse. Political instability, invasions, and economic decline disrupted trade and craftsmanship. For several centuries, the art of glassmaking nearly disappeared in Western Europe. Nearly, but not completely. The knowledge survived in two places: the Byzantine Empire in the East, and later in the Islamic world. Byzantine and Islamic glassmakers preserved and advanced the techniques. They created stunning mosque lamps, intricate vessels, and golden glass decorated with enamel. Enamel is a colored, glass-like coating fused onto glass or metal. Meanwhile, in Western Europe, glassmaking slowly revived. Monks in monasteries made glass for church windows. These windows weren't meant to be clear. They were meant to tell stories and inspire faith through colored light. This brings us to one of the most beautiful uses of glass in history. Imagine walking into a great medieval cathedral. The interior is dark and cool. Stone walls rise high above you. And then you see them, enormous windows filled with brilliant colored glass: red, blue, gold, green. The sunlight streams through, painting the floor in rainbow patterns. These are stained glass windows. Stained glass became the glory of medieval European churches, especially in the 12th and 13th centuries. These windows were more than decoration. They were religious art. Most people in medieval Europe couldn't read, so the windows told Bible stories visually, scenes of Jesus, Mary, saints, and miracles. They were like picture books made of light. Creating stained glass was a complex art. Glassmakers produced colored glass by adding metallic compounds during melting. Then artists cut the glass into pieces, each piece a fragment of the larger image. They painted details onto the glass with special paints. Finally, they joined the pieces together using strips of lead. Lead is a soft, heavy metal that could be bent to hold the glass in place. The result was breathtaking. Chartres Cathedral in France, Notre Dame in Paris, Canterbury Cathedral in England. These buildings glow with stained glass masterpieces, some of which have survived for 800 years. But while churches in Northern Europe celebrated colored glass, glassmakers in Italy were pursuing a different goal: clarity. In the 13th century, on the island of Murano near Venice, Italian glassmakers achieved something remarkable. Murano became the center of the world's finest glassmaking. The Venetian government moved all glassmakers to this island. Why? To protect trade secrets and prevent fires in the crowded city of Venice. Murano glassmakers developed Cristallo, the clearest, most transparent glass the world had ever seen. Cristallo means crystal in Italian, and the glass looked almost as clear as natural rock crystal. This was revolutionary. For the first time, people could make truly transparent objects. How did they do it? They used the purest sand and added special ingredients to remove impurities. Impurities are unwanted substances that make something less pure or clear. They also perfected their furnace temperatures and techniques. Murano glassmakers became the most famous in Europe. They made mirrors, chandeliers, intricate goblets, and sculptures. Their work was so valuable that glassmakers were treated like royalty, but also like prisoners. The Venetian government forbade them from leaving Murano. If they tried to share their secrets with foreigners, they could be punished, even killed. The government wanted to protect Venice's monopoly. A monopoly means exclusive control over making or selling something. Despite these restrictions, some glassmakers did escape. They spread Venetian techniques across Europe, to France, Germany, England, and Bohemia, now part of the Czech Republic. By the 17th century, European glassmaking was thriving. And then came an invention that would change the world: clear, flat glass for windows. For centuries, making flat glass for windows was difficult and expensive. There were a few methods, but all had problems. One method involved blowing a large bubble of glass, then spinning it rapidly until it flattened into a disc. Another involved blowing a cylinder, cutting it open, and flattening it. Both techniques produced glass that was wavy, uneven, and small. Then, in the 17th century, the French developed a better method: casting and polishing. Workers poured molten glass onto a flat table and rolled it smooth. After it cooled, they ground and polished both sides to make it perfectly flat and clear. This process was slow and labor-intensive. It required many workers and much effort, but it produced large, clear panes. The French used this glass to create something spectacular: the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles. This grand room, completed in 1684, features 357 mirrors reflecting the gardens outside. It was a stunning display of wealth and technological achievement. But glass remained expensive. Most ordinary homes still had small windows, or none at all. Everything changed in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was a period when new machines and factories transformed how goods were made. Suddenly, glass could be produced in large quantities by machines rather than by hand. In the 1950s, an Englishman named Alistair Pilkington invented the float glass process. This method revolutionized glass making once again. Here's how it works. Molten glass is poured onto a bath of molten tin. Tin is a soft metal that melts at a lower temperature than glass. The glass floats on the tin, spreading out perfectly flat and smooth. As it moves along, it cools and solidifies. The result is perfectly flat, clear glass, produced continuously, cheaply, and in huge quantities. This invention made modern architecture possible. Think of skyscrapers with walls made entirely of glass, shopping malls flooded with natural light, glass doors, glass tables, glass elevators. Our modern cities are built with glass. But glass didn't just change buildings, it transformed science and medicine. In the 17th century, glassmakers learned to make lenses, curved pieces of glass that bend light. Lenses made microscopes and telescopes possible. Scientists could suddenly see things invisible to the naked eye: cells, bacteria, blood vessels. Astronomers could study distant planets, stars, and galaxies. Eyeglasses, invented in Italy around 1290, helped millions of people see clearly. Before glasses, poor vision meant difficulty reading, working, and living independently. Glasses changed lives. In the 20th century, glass became even more important. Fiber optic cables, thin strands of ultra-pure glass, carry information as pulses of light. These cables form the backbone of the internet. Right now, as you watch this video, information is traveling through glass fibers at the speed of light. Glass also plays a role in medicine. Test tubes, beakers, and medical instruments are made from special glass that can withstand heat and chemicals. Laboratories around the world depend on glass. And let's not forget glass screens. Your smartphone, your computer, your television, all have screens made from specially strengthened glass. Modern glass can be incredibly strong. Gorilla Glass, used in many phones, is designed to resist scratches and cracks. Today, scientists are developing new types of glass with amazing properties. Self-cleaning glass, glass that changes color, flexible glass, glass that conducts electricity. The possibilities seem endless. So, my friends, here we are. We've traveled from ancient beaches to modern laboratories. We've watched glass transform from colorful beads to cathedral windows to smartphone screens. We've seen how this material, made from simple sand, has shaped art, science, architecture, and communication. Glass is a reminder of human ingenuity. Ingenuity means cleverness and creativity in solving problems. Thousands of years ago, someone discovered that heating sand creates something magical. Generation after generation, people experimented, improved, and innovated. They turned accidents into art. They turned craft into science. Glass also reminds us that simple materials can have profound impacts. Profound means very deep and significant. Sand is everywhere. Fire is ancient. But combining them in the right way created a material that lets us see the stars, cure diseases, connect across continents, and build beautiful spaces filled with light. The next time you look through a window, drink from a glass, or use your phone, take a moment to appreciate this extraordinary material. Think about the thousands of years of human creativity contained in that transparent surface. Think about the glass blowers, the cathedral builders, the scientists, the inventors, all the people who shaped glass, and in doing so, shaped our world. Glass teaches us that innovation builds on the past. Every breakthrough stands on the shoulders of previous discoveries, and it teaches us to see potential in the ordinary. Sometimes the most revolutionary materials are right beneath our feet. We just need the vision to transform them. Thank you so much for joining me today on this journey through the history of glass. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me create more content like this for you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. I'd love to hear from you. What's the most interesting thing you learned about glass today? Or do you have a favorite glass object? Maybe a window, a piece of art, or even your phone screen? Leave a comment below. I read every single one, and I love learning what interests you most. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep seeing the world with curiosity and wonder. See you soon.